Let's see. All right, we are now live recording. Gonna put it on YouTube, make you all famous, right? We're gonna go viral. Where are you guys from?
I'm from New York.
Okay, right on. Whereabouts?
Right outside the city.
Okay,
I'm right outside of LA.
awesome. I'm in my office in slow. The lighting kind of sucks in here. Let's see if I can change that somehow. It's a little bit better. Yeah, I'm actually originally from Boston, Massachusetts. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends going to BU for school.
That's where I went and did my undergrad. My dad was an EE professor there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I went to school with my dad. It's weird. Sometimes you'd see him passing, you know.
Was he your teacher?
He wasn't my teacher, but he it was like intro to circuits class, and he was one of the instructors in the group.
Mm-hmm.
And he did grade one of my problems on each of my midterms. And there was some problem where I like solved for a current and the question asked for voltage or something, and he wrote a rather long comment on there saying, "That's the stupidest mistake I've seen in my life." Yeah.
That's funny.
I wasn't a very good undergrad either, though. So I think my freshman and maybe my sophomore year, I was pretty cocky. I thought I knew it all. You know, and the fact that you're getting like B's and C's doesn't clue you off that you don't know it all somehow. So that's how I started off my college career. Not the recommended path, by the way.
Yeah.
Hi, Archit.
Hi.
Where are you from?
I'm from Fremont.
Okay.
California.
Right on.
Okay.
I remember when I was doing this last year, we had a guy from Brazil on. And he had a whole bunch of questions, but they were like questions that one didn't apply to anybody else on the call. And then two, I couldn't answer because I mean, I don't know about visas and things like that. Yeah, Luca.
Wow, that's far.
Yeah.
I thought I was coming from far away.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had some, occasionally we get a Chinese student too or something, and that's, I don't know, is China farther than Brazil or closer?
I feel like it's closer.
I think you're wrong. We could Google it. I think the Pacific Ocean is much bigger than our conception, but I don't know. You know, either way you slice it, you're kind of halfway around the world.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of stalling see if we get another person or two.
Mm-hmm.
Archit, by the way, we're recording right now.
Oh, yeah?
So no cussing. Yeah. I don't know why I recorded. It's not like who else is going to want to watch this?
Just us.
Actually, you know what would be fun is when you graduate, I'll give you this video. You're like, oh my God, look at that kid. Who is that kid? That's not a bad idea. Or better yet, 10 years after you graduate. I should go back and look for those recordings. Tag them.
Yeah,
Ethan, you're,
I'd be down.
yeah, that'd be cool, right? I run into a lot of my former students, and I've only been at Cal Poly for 10 years, but it's great because most of my students end up working in the Bay Area,
Mm-hmm.
and I can be up in the Bay Area and say, hey, who wants to go out for a beer? And just have like 10 random graduates show up. It's probably the best part of this job. All right, so I guess that's enough stalling. So, hey, my name's John. You can call me John. I guess I wouldn't recommend calling professors by their first name unless they tell you. There are a few. They're not many, but there are a few professors who will be offended. Yeah. So I mean, it's Professor so and so or Doctor so and so is always should be your default, but most faculty here will tell you to call them by their first name pretty quickly. Let's see, and just a few things about me. I'm coming off of my sabbatical year. So I was director for 3 years, and then I took a sabbatical year. And now I'm back to being director for another 2 years to finish out this 3-year term. Beyond that, I have no idea if I'll continue to be director or not. As director, my role is really kind of a steward of the curriculum, steward of the students. I'm your first stop for questions. I'm also, you get into academic probation or you get some sort of award. I'm also the guy. So I get to know the A students and the F students, I guess. I don't know. And then, yeah, just any information. I'm kind of like the first stop. Other things we do some course registration type stuff here. Manage office hours, things like that. Being director is not that difficult. The biggest thing I have to deal with in the next couple of years is I'm trying to transition the curriculum into something a bit to keep it modernized, and it's a non-trivial task. It's crazy. Right now we're talking about changes, and the earliest we can enact the changes is 2019. That's the way the catalog cycle works here. You can only make changes every 2 years. And if we miss the 2019, it's 2021, which sounds stupid, right? Let's see, I'm trained as a computer architect. What that means is CPU design, basically. However, my teaching has transitioned more to embedded systems, embedded electronics, digital design, and then also our capstone design class where you design, build, test some sort of artifact in a group of students for a client. And so one of the things that I'm doing this summer is trying to hunt up projects. So I actually, just before I started this, I sent off an email to Northrop Grumman. I got some nibbles on cybersecurity of drones. They have the Predator drone, right? Is one of their things. And so, it would be a cool student project to see if we can hack it or just do pen testing on it or something like that. So that's kind of what I've been doing. On my sabbatical year, I actually worked in cybersecurity, working with a group of people. We're standing up a training center for cybersecurity, and it's training for professionals, not for students. So it's like continuing ed / I know law enforcement is one of our biggest targets. So it's pretty heavy forensics type thing. But nonetheless, there are lots of student projects that could go on there. Simple things from accelerated password cracking using GPUs or distributed computing is a project that I've been tossing around. We're also looking at using putting forensics in the web in the cloud. So we're using AWS and putting a forensics tool in there and seeing how that works. Law enforcement's pretty resistant to using cloud technology. They think that it's Now somebody will be able to hack in and modify and stuff like that, but I don't know, the AWS implementation we have is pretty darn secure. It would take you a long time to crack into it. So that's kind of about me and what I've been doing. As you probably know, you're entering a very large class of computer engineering students.
Yeah.
178 is the last count, which would represent probably the largest class that we've ever had.
Really?
Yeah. We asked for 120. So traditionally when we ask for, let's say we wanted 120 students, traditionally we've given out 3.3 acceptances per student we want to show up in the fall. So that meant we send out over 360, right, 380 acceptances.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have lots of choice, right? Cal Poly is not the only choice you had. And, once financial aid information comes in and all of that, you can decide between going here or I don't know, wherever else, right? So that's why we have to give away so many acceptances, although that's actually a pretty low multiplier compared to many universities. So, it just turned out this year a whole bunch of people decided actually to choose Cal Poly, and we're honored by that, and we're a victim of our own success in some respect. But we're also now scrambling to try to figure out how to handle all that. Don't worry, you guys are handled. Freshmen are, but what we've had to do is we had to deallocate some faculty in like technical electives that are not required courses, right? And put them into the freshman year to support you guys. Another thing that happened is normally all freshmen would go into CP 123, which is our first. We call it a CS0 class. It's before CS1, which is 101 in our class in our school. We instituted a new policy where students with AP Computer Science get out of that class, and they go straight into CPE 202, which is data structures, which is the second of the intro programming sequence. And so I think that's actually a really good solution. The CS0 class is really meant for students who've never programmed before. And, if you throw experienced programmers in a class with students who've never programmed before, it can be quite intimidating for those students. And so I think it'll be a positive effect overall. The trick is that that CPE 123 class, the rule is you have to take a technical elective in place of it, and so that will create a problem for us staffing wise in the back end, right? Well, there's probably going to be about 80 or 90 extra technical elective seats we'll need to offer in 2 to 3 years, and we'll handle that when we get there. We're trying to hire as fast as we can, but one, we are a state university system, and so our salaries are in a strict pay structure. And so my current salary is less than what I made after I graduated as an undergrad, right? I make $80,000 a year, and I made that in 1997. So, without a doctorate too. So that's a primary challenge, is that it's hard to attract faculty here. So, but as a consequence, what you'll find is your faculty are generally very, very dedicated. We aren't here for the bucks. We're here because we enjoy students. We enjoy teaching. And then that's doubly so for computer engineering. Computer engineering, as you know, is a joint program between electrical engineering and computer science. And it's a volunteer thing. So only faculty volunteer their time to be part of the computer engineering program. And as a result, you'd have some faculty who've been tenured for a long time, and they're kind of like putting in the minimum every day. Well, they're not volunteering for extra work. So I can say safely that every computer engineering faculty member is actively engaged in teaching. And so, they're no duds. Overall, we have probably about between 550 and 600 students in computer engineering. Hey. Oh, he ran away. What's that? It looks like he likes coffee. Strong coffee. Welcome. Can you hear us? I don't know. Well, maybe he'll figure it out. So I guess that's kind of just my basic intro. Really wanted to dedicate this time for you guys and you can ask questions and and maybe you can ask cross questions and I can answer maybe. So fire away.
This is weird.
This is weird? What's so weird about it?
I've never been to a phone call like this, so.
Okay. Yeah, this is Zoom, but I don't know. When I talk to industry people, it's usually WebEx or something like that. By the way, we're recording right now, so keep the cussing to a minimum. Very good. See, that was the reaction I was hoping to get from you guys. So somebody shoot a question off. If nobody asks questions, I'm just going to fill up the airtime with just random chatter.
How difficult is it to graduate in 4 years?
So that's a good question. It used to be very, very difficult. In CPE 101, we used to have a 60% failed rate. So you get, and it used to be the first class you got when you came here. So, you're like, you're a high school student, you're a rock star in your high school, right? It's like all A's and maybe a few B's or something, and several AP classes under your belt. You come here, first quarter, bam, F. You're like, what did I get myself into? Well, we fixed that problem. We only have about an 8 to 9% DF rate in 101 now. And I would characterize that most of those DFs are students who don't adjust, I'll call it socially, to being a college student, right? They're on their own for their first time. They binge watch Netflix too much, right? It's Orange is the New Black for 40 hours a week or something, or they get involved with too many clubs, fraternity, sorority, rushing type stuff, right? So we put the CS0 class, the CP 123 class in the front there to help mitigate that. Also to help students who don't have any programming experience to adjust. And so we went from 60% for failure rates to about 8 or 9%. And there's still room for improvement too. CP 123 has only existed for maybe 3 years now. And so we're still dialing it in. The other class is CP 357. Systems programming shows up in your junior year. It's a tough class. It's a systems programming class, so it's very unforgiving. It's in C. But there's unnecessary stress in it. There are too many assignments in there with too short of a deadline, and students would say that it's a 4-unit class, but it's really 12 units of work. And so we've made some adjustments there. The thing is, we haven't quite figured out is it's a strong prerequisite for our operating systems and our networks class. And so the changes we made to that class have improved the pass rates in that class, but we haven't seen how that impacts those follow-on classes yet. We will this fall. So by the time you guys end up taking CP 357, we'll probably have the bugs worked out to see if the changes we made were good. So to answer the question, I believe that out of the 178 freshmen who are coming in, we should be around 70% graduation, okay? And about half of those will be graduating in 4 years. The other half, there are good reasons not to graduate in 4 years, and good reasons not, and not good reasons. Good reasons are like you took a co-op, so you took an extra quarter away at industry, right? You want to study abroad. Maybe you decided, hey, I just want to learn a few more things. So I'll take a few extra classes. I'll instead maybe take 12 units these 3 quarters because I really just want to concentrate on my studies, and I'll stay an extra quarter. So we see a lot of that. We also see, I call this a 4 1/4 trend, where students want to get that one last summer internship. Kind of like, oh, I really want to work at Apple, right? So I'm going to go get that internship at Apple. I'm pretty much graduated. I just got 1 quarter left. So I'm pretty darn competitive in that, internship pool, right? And then they just come back for that last quarter. And, the kids go to Apple, they come back with 20 grand in their pocket, and it's pretty easy to talk your parents into letting you stay for another year, right? Because especially if you're paying for it. So there's still room for improvement. The biggest thing is that a good number of computer engineering students who start in computer engineering don't end up in computer engineering, about 30%-ish. Some find that computer engineering, computing at all, is not for them, and they go to they go to industrial manufacturing engineering, which it doesn't hurt me too bad. When they go to the College of Business, I'm like, oh, come on, really? But but a good number actually, most of the transfers out of computer engineering are actually going to computer science or software engineering. And to me, that's great, because that just means that they're refining their choices, right? They're saying, hey, I'm just going to focus on the software development side of things, right? Or if they're going electrical engineering, I'm going to focus on the electrical, the hardware side of things. And to me, that's great. And one of the coolest things about computer engineering is that you can transfer to electrical engineering and through the end of your sophomore year, and you'll pretty much graduate in 4 years still. You can even do it all the way to the end of your junior year in computer engineering to computer science. You'll still graduate in 4 years. So that's if we really wanted to trap students in the major, we would make it more difficult to transfer. But yeah, that's not our goal. We want you to get the degree that you want. I don't know if you've gotten any messaging from the registrar or the admissions office that says otherwise. They used to try to scare students into thinking that changing your major was impossible. But it's really actually easy. If you have a 2.0 GPA or better, it's just my signature and you're good to go. So that was a long-winded answer.
Or do you stay? Well, I'm staying this year. My husband's there 10 years. Huh?
I wonder what they're talking about. Ethan, it sounded like you were about to ask a question.
Oh yeah. Is there a space for a minor with the computer engineering program?
Sure. So minors. Most common minor is probably math. It has the most overlap with our major, so it's perhaps the easiest to attain. Next most common I see is a music minor.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah. So certainly possible. Got 60% of the Cal Poly band is engineering, which is really crazy, and but also really great. Band gives you a very healthy social network, and I keep talking about social network. It's actually very the highest correlation we have for success at Cal Poly is whether or not a student has a good social network on campus or not. Which basically means, if you don't have a good social network, it means you feel isolated. You're less likely to be happy, less likely to be successful, less likely to seek help, things like that. And so, yeah, high proponent of band. I send them cookies every year. It sounds funny, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they get like 1,000 cookies from us a year.
Wow.
It's money well spent. Cookies are not expensive. Getting some weird sound, huh? Anybody else hear it?
What is it?
Yeah. It's like a bass.
I could try this, Sarah. All right, I think I know what the culprit is. Yeah, it's better, right? All right, that's rude though. Other questions?
Does any engineers have their minor
Minor in what?
in business?
Business. All right. So I think we're getting. No. Not that I know. I don't even know if the business school has a minor. Do they? I'm just googling it. Oh, there are minors. I haven't seen it. I don't know why. By the way, if you have computing skills and you have an accounting minor, you can make boku bucks. If you're a certified CPA and have computing skills, that's minimum 200K a year type job.
I can hear the echo. Anybody hear the echo?
The feedback?
Yeah.
It's like
I
we're
hear
in
your
a
voice.
bathroom.
It's so weird.
Well, I can try this. I don't know why we all of a sudden start getting feedback, but
What's
Is it working?
is there feedback now? Is it me?
Yes, back.
I'm not getting any.
Interesting.
I can
I
hear your
think the
voice.
culprit is me. Here, you guys talk to each other and see if there's any feedback.
I'm not getting any. I'm good.
I'm good.
I think it might just be your computer.
Okay,
That's weird. Oh wow.
we'll live with it.
Well, I am not a freshman. I'm a transfer student. So I have taking a look at my transfer courses, and there's some courses that being transferred, but the lower course is not transferred. For example, the CPE 100 is not transferred, although I already passed the 101 and 123.
Okay, that's pretty easy. CPE 100, where is an orientation class, and the easiest way to get credit for that is just I'll give you a permission number to register for it. It'll fit in your schedule because I put it in a place where there are no course conflicts. And it's basically you show up to the class, you get credit. 1 hour a week. It's mostly an information output class where I'm going to tell you about the curriculum. I'm going to tell you about all the services that the campus has. Clubs will come in, talk about their projects. Career services will come in. We'll have a few industry professionals come in, talk about what they do. It's a pretty straightforward class. Alternatively, we can allow you to convert that to an independent study unit as well if you don't want to sit through 10 weeks of a 1 week an hour, 1 hour a week type class. But then you'd have to actually do something instead of just sit there. Yeah, so orientation, I still haven't quite figured out the best way to teach that class. There'll maybe be 2 or 3 short writing assignments in there, but that's it.
Okay.
Total time, other than class time, is probably about 5 hours. Very easy unit. And it's credit, no credit too. So
Okay. Also, do you know about the GE pattern, I guess?
the GE pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
you don't have to take them in any particular order, other than there's some upper division GEs, right? Like a D3 GE. It has a prerequisite. So you just got to follow the prerequisites, but you can take the GEs in any order. Most transfer students have a good number of GEs polished off, though.
yeah, I check off some of them, but well, if you have heard about I guess which the GE pattern from my college, my community college, and I finished that certificate. However, I still need to, for some reason, I still need to finish area C and D in Cal Poly pattern, and that is what most of transfer students usually end up with.
Yeah, I'm not so sure because they're not my courses, so I don't know about them too much. However, there is a website, assist.org. I just shoved it in the text box here, the chat box. And you can check the equivalencies, pre-existing equivalencies for any California university with the Cal Poly to double check. You can always if you think that we've missed something, you can always apply for a course substitution. That actually doesn't come to me at all. It will go straight to the general ed committee, and they'll give it the thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah.
So having said that, also, and this applies for anybody here, this applies for any class, and not all any class at any California university. And some of these classes are actually online, and some of them can actually be taken in the summer. And so what you could do is let's say you're not busy next summer, you could take a few online courses and knock off 2 or 3 classes off your flowchart over the summer by enrolling in some of the university's online classes that already have the pre-established equivalencies. They're pre-established and they're on assist.org, they're a slam dunk. But even if they're not on there, let's say you're from New York and there's a local community college there and there's some classes that you think may transfer in, what we can do is if you identify those classes first, we can run them by the faculty who teach those classes and they can give you an approval or not. So it's pretty broadly possible. I've even had some students, while let's say they're a student here, let's say in the fall quarter, they're also taking an online class at another university, which is funny, right? They're a Cal Poly student, they're taking 12 units of Cal Poly units, and then they're taking 4 units at, Foothill Community College. So we see that. Okay.
Are there a lot of good connections in the computer engineering field at Cal Poly?
I think by connections you mean like industry connections?
Yeah.
Yeah. We are probably one of the most heavily recruited universities. I don't know. Maybe Stanford's probably more heavily recruited. Our proximity to the Bay Area and all the tech industry there really helps. This will sound xenophobic, but we are also heavily U.S. citizen here, whereas a university like Berkeley will have a good number of foreign students.
Yeah.
And so the defense contractors also really like to come here because 99% of our students are domestic. And we have a reputation too. Our students are very much different than most other universities. we call them day one ready. The number of labs that we force you to take means that you're day one ready. I'll give you a comparison. My undergrad, only half of my major classes had labs, maybe even less than half.
Oh,
Here, a major class without a lab is an exception. There's maybe one in our curriculum. So, that's our culture, though, and it's a lot of work. It's a minimum 12 hours a week you're going to spend in the classroom, plus the time outside you need to support that lab, and the recruiters see it. Smart people are everywhere at every university. But I think the Cal Poly student is also a very practical student. They're choosing Cal Poly because they want to go to work in industry. They're not necessarily, looking to do fundamental research. They want to really build things. They are also very practical about their schooling, right? They choose classes that are very support their career goals, I think.
Yeah.
And so, all of those things lead to a very favorable experience for industry with our students to begin with. So every year, 3 times a year, every quarter, about the third week of each quarter, there is a career fair on campus. And we'll have about 150 recruiters from companies looking for students with computing skills. And so that's every quarter. I highly suggest actually all freshmen go to the first career fair. You'll only be here for 3 weeks and go into the career fair. It's weird, but just to see what it's like. If you have some marketable skills, I'd throw down a resume and just see what happens. There are freshmen who get internships, summer internships. There are actually some freshmen who get. There are several companies in town that will hire students part-time as well. And many of you have a lot of AP credits, but our flow chart kind of blocks you up, so you can float around with 12 to 14 units the first year. So getting a part-time job with one of these companies is one way to make yourself very productive and also learn a lot. So there's a subsidiary of Boeing called Tapestry. They do logistics software. Amazon Prime services, that's run out of San Luis Obispo. We have an Amazon SLO. There's a company called MindBody. They do, it's kind of a software that is used by gyms and yoga studios and things like that, client registration type, for classes and things like that. Those are probably the 3 biggest in-town employers of our students. Students who work at those places work probably about 10 to 12 hours a week during the school year, and then full-time over the summer usually, although sometimes they leave and go somewhere else too. And Amazon SLO is actually very particular. They specifically target freshmen. They don't give you a programming test. They give you a problem-solving test. And then they groom you. They have a good track record for keeping students for 3 years-ish, right? Usually on their 4th year, they kind of explore some other option. But yeah, working at Amazon on Prime services is pretty attractive on the resume. So the answer is yes. We have good reputation. I have an industrial advisory board. I have a vice president from Intel on there. I've got Cisco, NetApp. I've got a few biomedical engineering companies, Microsoft. I don't know, basically, full defense contractors. A good smattering, and they provide a lot of opportunities for us too. It's called learn by doing, right? So what could be closer to learn by doing than actually going and working in industry.
Can you take the 4+1 program for computer engineering?
Yeah, you definitely can. So the 4+1 or the blended BS-MS program is a program where, it's possible to get your degree in 5 years. I've only seen, I see quite a few 5 years, but I've only seen 1 or 2 students do it in like less than 5. But the typical is more like 5 in a summer, because writing that thesis at the end is kind of a big burden. And so I see a lot of students defending over the summer. So yes, you basically, the beginning of your junior year, your third year, you have to decide where to apply. And you'd either apply typically to either electrical engineering 4+1 program or the computer science 4+1 program. The nice thing about both of those programs is they only require 60% of your units to be taken in that major, and then 40% can be taken in any other major. So you could be, if you choose EE, you could choose 60% of your units in EE and 40% in computer science, or vice versa, and thereby craft a computer engineering master's. But yeah, that's down the road. Probably somewhere, I don't know, 10 to 15 computer engineering students every year do the 4+1. Many decide to graduate. It's hard, right? If you've got this. Companies are very aggressive. They'll sign students to offer sheets in their junior year, right? They'll be 15 months out from graduating, and they'll get an offer from some company, right? And with that offer comes a $20,000 signing bonus, right? And so it's hard to say, okay, I'm going to put that off, and I'm going to do my 4+1, right? So that's a hard thing to do. So we don't, I think the number of students who do 4+1 right now, because the economy is good, is probably lower than it was a few years ago. I'm working on a new laptop right now, and this is the weirdest thing. They put the camera by the keyboard. Isn't that the weirdest thing?
Yeah, I've never seen that before.
I think it's because they wanted to make the margin around the screen as thin as possible, so there's no room for a camera up there anymore. But yeah.
About laptops, since we're already there.
Sure.
Which should we bring, like a laptop or an entire PC for our dorms?
Sure. Yeah, good question. So first of all, you don't need any computing device whatsoever. We have 24/7 lab access. So the downside is that, obviously you have to go to the lab. You can't just work in your dorm room, right? So most of our students opt for laptops. Many students like to take notes on them, right? It's nice to be able to work wherever. Wireless access, has really kind of opened that up. So you can, work outside. You can work at the library. You can work, in your dorm room. So laptops are probably the predominant computing platform people use. In terms of Mac versus PC, it really doesn't matter. You will want a virtual machine of some sort, but you don't have to get that right away. Your intro classes, you'll probably use your laptop as a terminal, and you'll log into the computer system, and you'll be writing your software on that computer system. So every type of laptop has a terminal, so no worries there. At some point in time, you will likely want a Linux distribution of some sort, and so Mac OS suffices there. But many students will opt for Ubuntu to start with, but may go to, Arch or something like that down the road. Other than that, there's really no required software. Actually, the university provides quite a bit of software, so you can get MS Office suite for free. You can get many other tools that you may need for your classes for free. We have student licenses for all those things. I wouldn't. I don't know if you're like me. I don't buy bleeding edge. Machines. I don't need the horsepower. If you ever need horsepower, you log into the computer system and you use our computer systems. We're fully cloud enabled, so if demand goes up, we just buy more nodes. So for the most part, I think your computing demands will probably be more decided by your personal tastes. What type, and that's probably means gaming. I don't play anything other than like casual games, so I don't ever need any horsepower. When I was a grad student, this was back in 2004. I was running simulations on a 64-core processor, and we're running really large programs on the 64-core processor, and the programs would take weeks to finish, and I had a server farm working for me, and all these scripts running that would launch all these test vectors off, and that was the only time in my life I've ever really needed real computing horsepower. Yeah, when your job takes weeks to run, it's it's frustrating. Because what happens is you get a bug, and the bug you don't find for a whole week, right? And then you go fix it, and then you got to run the whole thing again, right? So that was a long time ago. It's actually when I learned Python.
So what's the computer languages are you guys using in the classes?
Okay, so CP123, which you're not taking, is a menu class. Right, there's different sections. There's like a Java gaming section, which is obviously in Java. There'll be an electronic art class, which is in Python. There'll be a robotics section, which is in C. Right, so that really depends. You don't learn in the languages to very much depth, but it's an intro to programming. Really, they're trying to teach you like algorithmic thinking, I guess. Thinking about loops and data structures and things like that. 101 and 202, which is now used to be 102, and it's called 202 now, are both in Python. 101 is just intro. 202 is data structures, so linked lists, trees, things like that. Then 203 is in Java, and that's object-oriented. And the weird thing is that if you have AP Computer Science, you get out of 101, which is in Python, but Computer Science is in AP Computer Science is in Java. So you end up getting thrown into 202. So if you do have AP Computer Science, one tangible thing you can do now and then is to play around with Python, just to get used to the syntax. You have all the learning objectives. It's just learning the syntax, and it's weird going to a program that uses tabs to delineate things, tabs and end of line, rather than semicolons and things like that. So, playing around with Python could be something that could be beneficial. And you can, just download Pygame, the Pygame extension, and that's kind of fun. You can start drawing things right away. Then beyond that, the next required computing class is 357, and that's in C. And
57.
yeah, and that's in the junior year, right? Sophomore year is dominated by circuits and electronics. Well, circuits mostly, the hardware side of CPE. And so this is one place where I feel like computer engineers could possibly be at a disadvantage to computer science students. Computer science students take a computer organization class in C. They model a very rudimentary processor in C, whereas we actually do it in VHDL, in CPE 133 and 233, which is a hardware description language. So you don't get the C syntax prior to that, and so playing around with C is maybe a good thing as well before CPE 357. For the freshmen here, it's not until your third year here, but for transfer students, it comes up pretty quick. So playing with C may be a good thing.
At my community college, I learned C and C++, and I never get experience with Java or Python.
Okay.
I would recommend to get more experience with that before coming to the fall.
Did you get 203 credit?
Yes, 203 and 202.
Okay, so I don't think you'll need Java again. And I think many universities are moving away from Java for very good reasons. Python, though, is pretty handy. Python, and I'll call it, at very least, I think Python is such a handy tool because it's very easy to do what I call data cleaning. Let's say you get this gigantic data set, but it's got some irregularities in it. It's kind of in a weird format, and you want to reformat it. Python's a very, very nice language for that. And we will all in the future need to deal with large data, right? Big data. So Python is a good bridge there. It's also good for just scripting things together. So you may have some very compute-intensive things, and you'll write those in C or C++, but then you'll want the results of one program to go into the next program, and you may want to reshuffle its order or something, and so then use Python for that. That's a very nice tool for that. So yeah, I mean, Python, it's not hard. It's actually the first language that made me really feel like a programmer. When I was an undergrad, I was an electrical engineer, and I only had 8 weeks of C programming, and that was my entire programming experience. So when I was a grad student and pursuing my PhD, all of a sudden I was around a whole bunch of other computer engineers, and I felt very much like a hack compared to their programming skills. So I had to learn on the fly, and Python was the first time I really felt like I could really write programs that without I don't know. Before then I was like writing the program, compiling it, running it, see if it worked. That didn't work exactly. I'll change this, recompile, run. Didn't work. Did that whole process a whole bunch of times until you kind of get to this random walk until you get your solution. And obviously that's not very efficient, right? With Python, I think with some of the built-in data structures, it made me think more about the design of the program first. And I think that's really the difference between somebody who is a programmer versus somebody who can code. So, yeah.
Could you send me the link to download some of the?
Yeah. I hate this. Every time I type in Python, I add a G to the end for some reason. And it ends up being Python. I usually just Google it, and the Python.org website is really good. There's lots of resources on there, but yeah, that's. And then there's a extension Pygame that's fun to play with.
Cool.
Right, it gives you this blank canvas, and you can start drawing shapes right away. different colors and all sorts of things like that. And so it just is very fun to play with, and it's kind of fun. Okay, I'm gonna have this triangle, and then I'm gonna make it bigger and bigger and change colors, and I'm gonna put that in the nested loop and see what that looks like, and right, that's awesome. And it's you can do that in like 15 lines of code. So if you take the electronics art section of CP 123, that's basically day 1 or day 2 maybe of that class.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Checking my schedule here, but I think I'm open. I actually am surprised. So the university sent out the email inviting you to this Zoom session,
Mhm.
and they said 90% of all freshmen have already viewed the email. To me, that's amazing.
Oh,
Because
wow.
people are usually on summer vacation and stuff like that, Actually, sometimes I feel like they just ignore me. Ignore. Yeah, I'm open. Let's keep going.
Okay.
Does the AP chemistry exam not give you credit for what's this? Chemistry 124?
So the answer is, I believe it should. But let's look at it together. When did you take the exam?
2016.
Okay, so, and I'm gonna, here we go. Well, if you Google Cal Poly AP credit, you come up with essentially links that look like this. And so if you go to that, it opens up a PDF, and it says chemistry. You have to get a 5 to get chemistry 124. If you got a 3 or a 4, you only get credit for chemistry 110 or 111, which we don't accept, which we don't use in the computer engineering curriculum. So that may be the difference.
Oh, my computer's about to die, and I'm not home, so I can't stay much longer.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. Just bail when you need to, and feel free to attend any future sessions if you want. Things may pop up.
Yeah. All the other 4, the other 3, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care, right? Show up, don't show up. I'm here.
Oh, I thought these were like mandatory things.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Maybe I should make that more explicit in the emails. If they were mandatory, we'd have a lot, right? With 178 people coming in, there'd be a lot more faces. Yeah. Let me read the email. Blah, blah, blah.
Oh.
If you, okay, yeah. Maybe I'll have them resend the email saying, hey, this is non-mandatory.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So thank you.
Yeah, and sorry to waste your time if you thought it was.
No, what time?
Okay. All right, cool. It was a waste of time for Ethan, wasn't it?
No, it was pretty informative. So how fast is the quarter system?
How quick is it?
Yeah, because I used to be in semester system.
Yeah.
I wonder how fast it would be compared to semester system.
So I've done both. My undergrad was semesters, graduate school was quarters. Quarters are tough. They're fast. Some faculty, I don't know how they do this. They do midterms, 3 of them per quarter. And so in 3 and 10 weeks, that means on your like second or third week in your quarter, you're taking a midterm.
Oh.
Right?
Wow.
So it'd be like 3, 5, and 8, and then a final exam on week 11. Like, that's too many exams. I don't do that. 2 midterms and a final is the most I could possibly fit in. Otherwise, it's too much time just doing assessment rather than, actually learning. So it's quick, especially if you get like sick and you lose a week, right? That's 10%. It's hard to make up 10%. And, one of the nice things about semesters is you could be sick for a week and it's, 1/16. It's a lot easier to come back from that. Yeah. At the same time, there are pluses and minuses to semesters versus quarters. Quarters we can teach a higher variety of things, right? Because there are more classes. But at the same time, there are more finals, and finals are your most stressful periods, and so there's three finals a year versus 2. I prefer semesters myself, but I'm in the minority here at Cal Poly. Most faculty, I think, prefer the quarter system.
Yeah.
You get stuck with a bad professor, you're only with the bad professor for 10 weeks. You get stuck with a good professor, you're only with them for 10 weeks. So double-edged sword. There's been some talk at this university. The CSU put down a mandate saying all the CSUs are going to a semester system.
Mm-hmm.
We have at this plan no plan to go to semesters. Having said that, if the chancellor says, no, Cal Poly, you really have to do this, then we would probably have to do it. However, the transition period from quarters to semesters would be at the minimum 4 years.
Okay.
So it would not, basically, if they told us tomorrow that we had to do this, it would not impact you guys.
Yeah.
All right.
So it was they surveyed alumni, they surveyed the students and all of this, and it was like 80% of alumni said no, do never switch from quarters. There's some sort of, I don't know. I feel like sometimes Cal Poly, we think we're elite, or there's some sort of pride, and anything that changes what we are is not a good thing. And I would argue that that change is really healthy, right? So trying to bring that perspective to the university. Finished my spinach chard smoothie. Anybody else want some? No.
A little too healthy.
We'll start off the day right.
Our books, for computer engineering per se, do we have to buy it from on campus, or can we
So it's good. The question is, books, do you buy them on campus or can you get them from anywhere? If you know what book you need ahead of time, I would recommend not buying it from campus because you could probably find a better deal online.
Mm-hmm.
Be a little careful. Many books have what they call international editions. They're very, very attractive because the prices are very, very much lower. Like the domestic edition will be $150 and the international edition will be $25. Which is usually fine. The biggest difference between the international edition and the domestic edition is they have different problems at the end of the chapters. And so if your professor is assigning you, problems at the end out of the book, then you need to get the right problems out of the book, right? And that can be solved usually with some of your classmates. You can photocopy a few pages here or there, right? But I think the harder part is knowing what textbook to get ahead of time. For some classes, the textbook is standard. Like there's one textbook for no matter who teaches that class. For other classes, it's up to the instructor. And so your best bet is when you register for a class is to actually email the instructor and say, hey, is there a textbook for this class? Because many of our classes no longer have textbooks. And then two, what is the textbook? And then three, is it okay if I get like an old edition, right? The fourth edition may be out now, but the third edition is probably a lot cheaper, right? And if they say yes, that also implies you could probably also get away with the international edition, right? What you also find is that once you're on campus, students oftentimes want to try to sell their textbooks to other students, right? They finish the class, and they usually give you a pretty sweetheart deal on it, right? It's used, so. So you kind of have to feel it out a little bit. Push comes to shove, you can always buy it from the bookstore. I think the bookstore prices have been more competitive lately, but of course, the internet is far more competitive than any one given store. But yeah, if you just registered for a class, it's already 3 days into the class, and you need the textbook right away, just walk up to the bookstore and buy it. And they rebuy books too, right? They resell them. I think you can actually rent them nowadays too, some sort of rental program. I don't know what's better, to own and sell back or to rent. My wife and I were talking about this. We were talking about taking a family road trip, and she wants to get a van again, a VW convertible, minibus type thing with the sleeping quarters and everything. Or you can like rent a camper van. But we were looking at like the rentals for the camper vans. They're like $300 a day, right? And if you go for 2 weeks, that's a lot of money. And so we were, thinking, well, what if we buy a van again, like she wants, and then use it for 2 weeks and then sell it? I think you could probably do that cheaper, right? I'm guessing, unless you total it or something, right? So you're assuming some risk, but yeah. So I don't know. Maybe textbooks apply. The same rule applies for textbooks. If you total your textbook, maybe renting is cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
What would that even mean? You drop it into the toilet or something?
About materials that we have to bring, like
Mm-hmm.
notebooks and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
How do professors usually take assignments, or like, what would you recommend for like notes and homework stuff?
Yeah, I mean, some students take notes on their laptops. You will find, however, there are lots of diagrams, and so if you're very good at drawing diagrams on your laptop, then go for it. I've never been very good at that. I don't know. I am not a Microsoft Paint master. So I have always preferred, just pen and paper type thing. Yeah, it's pretty simple. Some of the labs, especially on the electrical engineering side, will require you to have a specific type of notebook for the class, but they'll tell you in the first day, right? And, what they're doing is they're doing an official engineering lab notebook, right? So it's going to be like graph paper type notebook, in a glue bound thing. But yeah, there's really very little requirements there. Once you start hitting some embedded systems classes, there'll be some small electronics that you'll need to buy, some like a microcontroller board, things like that. Those classes, we've designed them not to have textbooks. So the money that you would possibly have spent on a textbook would be spent on about $50 of embedded electronics. But then many other classes then will also provide the necessary electronics that you need.
Mhm.
And then like at the end, our capstone design class, one of my roles is to actually fundraise for that. And so we have a pool of money that people can draw upon to buy equipment for designing their projects. As a consequence, I accumulate lots and lots of hardware. I have this tackle box. It's like this big, and it's filled with electronic components of all sorts. I have an inordinate number of alcohol sensors for some reason. Students like to make breathalyzers as part of their projects.
Do professors allow you to, or are there recordings of lectures so you can go back to it after review?
So first of all, some professors already have pre-recorded lectures and make them available. I personally do that for one of my classes, my embedded systems class. But I don't think we're in the majority yet. I think you would probably have to ask the faculty member. They would probably feel pretty comfortable, especially if it's a voice recording. It'd be weird if you're setting up a tripod and a camera. But yeah, or holding a phone the whole time, right? One of the things we have seen though is that, students oftentimes take their phones out and take a picture of the whiteboard or something, right? As a method of taking notes. I actually don't recommend that. I recommend, pen and paper, writing it down as they are writing it down. The tactile portion of following along is actually a good thing. It helps you focus, versus, your mind may wander a little bit and then, at the end, just snap a photo, right? You can see that's probably not the same learning method. But ask, and most faculty won't care, I'm sure, but some will feel shy.
So where could you access those recorded lectures?
Okay, so for me, we have a learning management system called Polylearn. It's what they call Moodle-based learning management system. Moodle is a open source thing. Many other universities use it. Ours is just a semi-custom version of that. So when you log into your Cal Poly portal, up on the front page, you should see the classes that you're registered if you change it to fall quarter. So CP 100 should be there. I haven't populated it yet with anything. And on my Polylearn for my embedded systems class, I will have all my videos on there. And so once you're registered for the class and you get access to the Polylearn, then that's where usually you get the videos. I believe all of mine are also YouTube links too, so you could probably just search YouTube. I don't care who sees my stuff. I thought about it. I should put some advertisements on there. Make a whopping $5 a year.
How many students usually in your classes?
For my class, well, all right, orientation is the exception, okay? CP 100, you're going to be in a large lecture hall. It's going to be 178.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's the one unit class. This fall, I'm teaching capstone CP 350. The cap is 24. I will likely exceed the cap by a little bit just to accommodate the last few students. So maybe 28 max. Next quarter, I'm teaching the second quarter of the capstone class, which will be also 24, 28-ish. Spring quarter, I haven't been assigned my teaching assignment yet, but it's likely to be the embedded systems class, and that's capped at 32. That's CP 329. All of the computer science classes are capped at 32, but sometimes but sometimes they'd accommodate the last few students. They go up to like 35. Electrical engineering, the lectures are 36, and labs are 16 or 24.
Sounds good.
Yeah. It is something we are trying to hold the line on, right? We are known for small classes, for interactions between faculty and students, and we pride ourselves on that. This is actually the reason I do the job, is because I get to know my students. I know them academically, I know them personally. It's what I value. However, we will also see that there are large wait lists for some of our classes. And so, that's the reason we're starting to push the enrollment cap, or, we accept a few more students here or there to try to accommodate demand. The longer term solution, of course, is to try to hire. And I think before you got on, we were talking about this. It's just hard to hire computer science, computer engineering faculty with doctorates because we pay them $80,000 a year. And if you have a doctorate and you're working in the Bay Area in computer science, you're making $200,000 a year, right? So the pay differential is pretty large. But as a consequence, I was saying that everybody who comes here to teach, is really coming here to teach, right? It's not to make the money. It's not that bad, really, if you think about it, too, because we're paid for 9 months a year. And 3 months a year, I can do something else, and I can consult, right? And over those 3 months of the year, I could make another 70K or something. Isn't that crazy? I can work 9 months of the year, and then 3 months of the summer, I can make the same amount of money as the rest of the year. So I don't think most faculty do that, though. I think many may do some odd job or some odd activity over the summer, and then concentrate on like a family vacation or something. Right. The flexibility of being a faculty member is something that you can't ignore too. Right. The only required hours I have as a professor on campus is my office hours, the classes that I teach, right, and then maybe committee meetings. Beyond that, I can come and go as I please, and that really helps with family life a lot. Right. My kids get out of school at 3. I got to take them to soccer. I can go do that. And then I can do more work at night. Oh. I did my second yoga class of my life today.
Oh,
Yeah.
how you like that?
I actually did some yoga in the 80s. Dating myself here. My age group swim coach was big into yoga, so we did some yoga in the 80s with him. And then I don't know. I've been feeling older and creaky lately, so the last 6 months I've been doing like 20 minutes of yoga on my own in the mornings. I figure, these videos are kind of cool, but I should probably get some professional advice. So I've got a month left before faculty come back to the university, and so I figured I'd do a 1 month intensive yoga. So 5 days a week of yoga for 1 month. We'll see how that goes. I'm sore in places that I didn't know I could be sore. I have to figure out what a sacrum is. They keep talking about it.
Will you be the CP 100?
Yeah, I'm your guy. I may not look like this. I'm starting to lose my hair. My kids are driving me crazy. And so I'm on this edge. Do I keep my hair for another year or do I shave it? You know what I should do? I should set it up as some sort of CP 100 activity. Like you guys score a certain level, I shave my head. You don't attain that, I don't shave my head. What do you think? That sounds pretty good.
No.
Oh, yeah, to keep the
Stakes are high though, right? I mean, I'll think about it. I'll think about it. Well, I got to think of a really good challenge. I thought about weird things too. We could, I don't know, is there some sort of online, like, I don't know, Pokemon Go doesn't work this way, but if there's some sort of online game where we could 178 of us all get on and contribute to something, we could do something really impressive. I don't know. I was just thinking that'd be something. Like, what was the one before Pokemon Go? I want to call it Insurgent, but that's not right. Divergent. It's another one of these. What do they call it? Location aware, augmented reality type games. It was a precursor to Pokemon Go. But it's team based. So you form a team and do things like that.
Don't know.
Maybe I should stop recording. But Dr. Oliver, you said you were going to shave your head.
But you are the one with the recording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is it manageable to what's it called? Do like sports activities and let's say internship club whatnot and
Sure.
but yeah, you have to pick like is it like you pick one or what would you recommend? Go
Sure.
whatever.
Right. So first thing is your first quarter, your freshman year, you're gonna feel pretty light. It's not gonna be a huge workload, and it's by design. Because we want to give you the opportunity to do intramural sports, to maybe find an internship, to find a social group, right? Band, fraternity, sorority. By the way, they have academic fraternities and sororities too. It's not just, the drinking party type fraternity sororities. They have philanthropic ones. They have professional ones. So there's actually an engineering fraternity sorority. It's co-ed. Join clubs, SWE, robotics club, things like that. And so your first quarter, you should seek out these opportunities. Your second quarter, your workload's going to ramp up. First quarter, actually, I think the biggest stumbling block for students ends up being math, calculus classes. Some students find that the pace and the level of detail in the calculus classes are much higher than their high schools. And so be aware of that. Be on guard for that. Be ready to dedicate yourself to that. And also be aware there are these things called calculus, calculus workshops. So let's say you're in Math 141. If you add 10 to that number, Math 151 is the workshop class. And you can enroll yourself in that class almost any time. And all it is it's a study session. It's 3 hours a week, and there's a TA in there, right? And so, those workshop classes sometimes are, it's hard to tell the first week of the class whether or not it's going to be hard or not, right? But by the third week, you can say, holy moly, what's going on, right? In which case, you can just start going to that workshop class and enroll late into it. Highly recommended. But other than that, I think most students do pretty well their freshman year, other than the calculus class, until they get to like their second programming class or something, the CPE 101, if they've never programmed before. If you do have AP Computer Science, 202 doesn't usually end up being a huge stumbling block for those students. And I think, physical activity, hey, I'm doing yoga, right? Physical activity is very helpful. Studies have shown that, right, it increases blood flow to the brain. Good stuff, right? So I think an intramural sport or some sort of physical activity is good. I think a club or some sort of other non-academic activity is also good. Be cautious. Don't get into too many things. There are many high school students, they were president of this club, they did the yearbook, they did that thing, right? They played on 3 varsity sports, they did all of that, and they were very successful in doing all of those things. If you try to do that here, you will kill yourself, right? We are probably, as the work ramps up, you'll probably be spending 30 to 35 hours a week outside of class on your studies. Right, so you're going to have 20 hours of classes, 30 hours of studies. That's 50 hours a week already, and then if you try to add 20 hours of other things to that, you'll go bonkers. So yeah, start off slow. I think pick 2 things. And also you should. Some of the things, like I said, there's a career fair every 3rd week of the quarter. You should hit those up. You should have the flexibility to hit those things up. You should be taking advantages of some of the services on campus, right? Study skill sessions. This sounds stupid, but especially for some of our highest achieving freshmen coming in, they never really had to study hard in high school. I don't know. I've surveyed freshmen. How many? I think maybe 6 hours a week of studying outside of class is what is the average. When you go from 6 to 30 a week, that's a huge jump, right? And getting used to that is hard, right? Learning how to learn is hard. And so there's the study skills sessions offer some tips and techniques. One that I'm a big fan, or there's 2 I'm a big fan of. One is schedule your study times, right? You're going to have empty blocks in your schedule, right? You'll have a class, then you have a 2-hour break, and then you got another class. It's very, very easy to spend those 2 hours out on Dexter Lawn, enjoying the sun, watching all the beautiful co-eds out there. That goes for both genders, by the way. It's much harder to force yourself to go to the library, to go to the cubicle, to work on your math set in those 2 hours, but that's definitely the way to do it. To help with that, a study group is highly recommended. Study groups, right? So find a friend or 2 in your classes. Say, hey, let's study together, right? Maybe in those scheduled times. The biggest advantage of that, I think, is that you may get stuck on a problem, and rather than beat your head against a wall for half an hour, you can actually turn to the side and ask a question, right? And they may be able to help you, and you may be able to help them. And when you help them, you're actually learning too, right? So yeah, study groups are, I think, probably the biggest reason why online education will never be as good as face-to-face. Because being co-located, being able to have that social element is important. That's my diatribe against online education.
I'm against it too.
Yeah. People discount it, but learning is hugely social. And it's weird. I used to have such negative opinions of psychology, the field of psychology. Oh, such a soft science, you can't prove anything, blah, 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 right? And all of the books I read now have to do with psychology, because, that's my job. My job is to help students learn and teach. I learn how to make myself a better teacher, and that's all psychology, right? I mean, I have to know my material, but that's just mechanics, right? You can go online and find information nowadays, right? So, who knew? My 25-year-old self would be thumbing his nose at me.
Is there anything going on campus right now that we can attend?
There's what? Slow days? I don't know what that is. Did you do, there's a transfer orientation day coming up, right?
Yeah, it's on the 14th, which is Monday.
Yeah, a week from, next week, yeah. So I'll be there. I'll see you in person if you're showing up.
Oh, awesome.
I won't be there all day. I have to drop my son off at Lego camp. My wife is out of town. My wife and daughter are going to Arkansas to visit her brother who just moved there from all places. He just moved from Costa Rica to Arkansas. That's different. Yeah, the jungle of Costa Rica to Arkansas. So I have my son, and I'm solo parenting for all next week. So Lego camp ends at noon, so I have to bail. But I'll be there like 10, 11:30 or something at least. Other than that, not much. Campus here is pretty dead over the summer. It's interesting because when my wife graduated from Cal Poly in '98, and back then they had a pretty vibrant summer. It wasn't as crowded as the other quarters, but it was pretty vibrant. And then for whatever reason, it just kind of died off. For my students, for computer engineering students, most of our students are doing summer internships. So between your junior year and senior year, the majority, if not like, I don't know, if you have a 2.0 GPA or better, you have a summer internship. Between your sophomore and junior year, it's about 50% chance if you have above 2.0. Between freshman and sophomore year, it's, I don't know, more rare, 15%. And so that's one reason, right, is the prevalence of summer internships. I've been actually trying to convince people that, they should actually move more to a summer plus a quarter in industry, because summer is like a 10, 12-week type thing. It's pretty short. By the time you learn, you're kind of gone.
Yeah.
So if you go for a summer and a quarter, you can learn, and then you can actually use that and build that. And then your supervisors can see that growth, maybe even evaluate that, and then really give you like a strong recommendation later on. And then they want to retain you, or just, recommendation for another job down the road. Haven't convinced enough people to do that. Part of the reason, I think, is because when you get off track right now, it's pretty difficult in our current curriculum. The courses kind of move in lockstep. It's very, very easy to get the classes that you need, I think, if you're in lockstep, but the minute you're off, it becomes a little bit more difficult. We'll talk about that in CP 100. Yeah, not much happening over the summer.
So this may be high school stuff, but how hard is it to, keep, A's and stuff, and get on the list of possible?
Dean's List and stuff. I don't actually know. So I'll tell you 2 data points that I do know. The percentage of students who graduate with honors, so 3.0 and above or with honors, is in the 20% range. The average GPA is about 2.8, 2.9, though. And so if you, if you'd imagine that distribution, then it's very, very peaky at that 2.8, 2.9, because if 20% are above 30%, 3.0, that means there are a lot of people in that 2.8 bin, right? The nice thing is that, I guess the first thing is that almost all of our students get hired. I want to say placement rate is somewhere in the 95% rate. And the median salary is over 100K now. So not only are they getting jobs, they're getting jobs that pay well, even below 3.0. Having said that, I also want to stress this, that I know students, plenty of students who are below 3.0 who are really great. They're amazing students. And they go on to be amazing and productive in industry. And I know students who are 3.8 GPAs, and I know they can do the homeworks. I know they can do the problem sets, but I have less confidence in their ability to be effective engineers in the field. And I also, so I have a friend, Mark Oskin, who's a professor at University of Washington, and he told me this. When he hires a PhD student, when he's looking at their transcript, what he's actually looking for is road bumps. He doesn't want the 4.0. He wants a student who had real adversity and had to overcome it, right? And so he's looking for the blemished. And I think there's some real truth to that, right? I mean, if everything comes easy to you, and then you're out in the workforce, and then there's something you can't solve, how do you respond to that? Do you fold over, or do you rise to the challenge? So, again, human psychology. GPA is such a poor metric of what makes a person successful. So is your SAT score, by the way. we plot we've done this exercise. We plot students' SAT scores and their graduation rates here at Cal Poly. It's a complete scatter plot. It's it helps that you all have very good SAT scores, right? Right. You're, for the most part, everybody's above 1,200, I think, nowadays. Speaking of which, I wouldn't be able to get into Cal Poly with my scores when I was an undergrad. But yeah, so maybe that's the effect, where when you start to rail yourself up against the extremes, the numbers really don't matter too much anymore.
With that being said, does that also mean that the classes in Cal Poly are very challenging?
Yeah, I mean, you take the top few students from a lot of high schools and you put them all in the same class together. It can be tricky. Again, I mean, any good university is that way. And I was relating before we started this. When I was a freshman, I was very cocky. I thought I knew it all, and even though I was getting B's and C's, I still thought I knew it all. So there were a lot of kids who were a lot smarter than I was, and it took me longer to figure it out. It wasn't until my junior year my grades really took off. I went on a co-op, and I was like on this co-op. I was working at this biomedical company. We were making blood gas analyzers. You stick in a blood sample, and 1 minute later it tells you how much oxygen, potassium, that type of stuff is in the blood. And this was back in '94. And back then, to get that information, what they had to actually do is hire a chemist, right? And a chemist cost, I don't know, $40,000 a year, right? So we were just trying to make a machine for $40,000 that would do this, right? So that was the first time I realized the stuff that they were teaching me in class was actually something that I would actually need to learn to do my job. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know, I was an engineering student. You would think I would have realized that, but I didn't actually, I don't know, I didn't really think about myself, I think, it was an unexamined life. And so that was a wake-up call for me. And so when I got back to school, my grades shot up because I really started to not only pay attention, but pay attention to actually learning the material. It wasn't just about this game where you're just trying to get A's anymore. It was like, hey, this material, I need to know this because, this is my career. It's appalling how immature I was, but It also serves for me as a reminder that, may not be you guys here, but there are going to be freshmen out of these 178 who are going to be in that same boat. And so having that perspective, I think, is important for me. Again, psychology, right? And we talked about grit too, right? When do you rise to the challenge? That's psychology. It's crazy. And I used to denigrate it.
Speaking of psychology, I have friends from other universities and all, and they've given me different ideas on how to interact with professors as a whole. So some say that it's better to ask questions at the end of their lecture session or during a study period, or just interrupt a professor by raising your hand or something.
Yeah.
So how do you decipher what's...
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably feel that one out. However, a lot of your friends probably go to, I don't know, if they don't go to Cal Poly, they go to other universities. And if they were freshmen at many of these other universities, they're in very large classes. And you can imagine if you have a class of 100 and people are raising their hands, it's very tough to make headway. We don't have that. Right? We have smaller classes. I don't know of a single faculty member who would not welcome questions in the middle. I really don't. So if it was me, that would be the mode I would choose. I would ask questions early and often. Questions oftentimes indicate places where the professor is not being as clear as they could be, and helps the professor then reiterate, take a different approach to explaining the same thing, which improves everybody's learning. And so I think we do appreciate it. Occasionally you may get a professor who will say, "No, can you hold your questions to the end?" So, but I think it's the exception. All right, so I think we'll call it here. There are 3 more dates for this. Looks like Tuesday the 15th, Wednesday the 23rd, and Friday the 25th. Feel free to attend any or none of those. These are not mandatory. But and if any questions pop up between now and then, you can pop on to the telecon. You can pop off as quickly as you want as well. You can always email me. Email is probably my preferred method of communication. If you leave me a voicemail, I probably won't answer it. I actually don't even have access to my voicemail right now. My admin needs to transfer the phone over from the previous director to me. So email is probably the best, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Cool? All right.
Thank you so much.
You bet.